Yes, now.
Yes, we can begin.
A very good afternoon, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the 16th edition of India Digital Summit, Supercharging Startups, organized by Internet and Mobile Association of India. The summit is supported by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, and Niti Aayog. I'm your host for this session, Ayushi Mittal from IAMEI. Welcome to the panel discussion on the importance of creating tailorable CX solutions to ensure brands stand out. We would like to thank our digital financial management partner EaseBuzz, conversational messaging partner GupShup, session partner GoQuick, gold partner Manorama Online, Blink Digital, and Yellow.ai, and silver partner ShareChat. Without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Vartika Verma, Global Vice President Marketing from Yellow.ai, who is the moderator for today's discussion. Joining us today, we have a great set of leaders. Please welcome Arpit Upadhyay, Business Lead E-commerce from The Man Company, and Nitesh Shende, VP Product Experience from Porter. Over to you, Ms. Vartika.
Hi, thank you so much, Ayushi. And so good to have you both, Arpit and Nitesh. And I'm super excited to moderate this session, being a user of both brands, Porter.in and also Man Company at some point. So it's a very exciting topic, and even so, because I think the entire role of CX and customers itself have changed a lot over the last 2 years. Whenever the topic of CX comes up, it goes without saying that all CX custodians have to somewhere in their journey dive into who is the C in CX. Since we have you both here, Nitesh and Arpit, I would love to hear from you that, when you hear the word customer experience, who is the real customer that comes into your mind beyond the obvious? Nitesh, would you like to answer that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what I think we obviously know is that the people who buy our services obviously end up being our customers, and for most B2B businesses, we also consider some other stakeholders which are within the business, which who might not be buying, but who might be using your product or services at the end of the day. So like we call it a buying center in B2B, right? Usually. So, but I think the beyond that, what I feel is that the other side of the story is as an organization or as a company, I think employees or the team that you have and the customers that are customers customer also eventually become kind of affected by what you do and how you do and why you do kind of stuff, right? So I think those are like and even like for that matter, like as a ecosystem altogether, you kind of have an impact, I think, on the entire ecosystem. So in my opinion, we should consider maybe ecosystem as our customer as a whole, because let's say if Porter is a company which is operating in logistics space in India, then we are actually having an impact on the business space in India as a whole, and not just logistics industry for that matter, right? Because if you do logistics well, then probably it helps many other companies do their own things, even at a next level, right? So I think that's what probably sometimes we miss, that it's not just the immediate customers which often comes to our mind, but it's also the team that we have internally, even like the stakeholders we have, from a wider set of things. They also
And
are
even
our
all
customers.
your drivers and the porters raising
Exactly.
their
I
own
mean, all the
voice, right?
partners that you work with, or maybe your ancillary suppliers, and in Porter's case, for example, the driver partners are the
Yeah.
key, and like they almost are, and same as probably employees in many ways, because like together for the end customer, they stand as a Porter brand and that's a very important thing for us to, I think, note.
Absolutely. So the ecosystem is the customer and not just the
Yeah.
only customer as an end customer. Great. And Arpit, what are your views? Personally, being a woman, I've bought on man companies, so would like to understand who are your customers in the CX.
Basically, Vartika, how do we start is we see the holistically being the man company, men being the primary end user of our products. But as the customer, what we see that there are not only males who are buying our products, but there's also a huge chunk of women that are buying our product, and that happens not only on a usual business day, but also that happens majorly when there are certain particular events are there, just like uh, lot of festivities around the corner are there. So just like Valentine's is there, Raksha Bandhan is there. Yes, yes. On Father's Day. So this type of buying happens a lot. So we see a very healthy share of gender while these weeks or months at that time or at this time I should say. So primarily our campaigns are also designed in that way. We did a very aggressive campaign in the month of November that was around International Men's Day. So basically that was not any tactical campaign, just a branding campaign. So there we were not only reaching out to the men but also to the women, just to tell that what kind of all different personas of men are there, what they expect in their day-to-day lives, and what kind of self-care that they deserve, but they don't get time to, or they are busy in all the day-to-day lives that they don't give themselves that attention that they should. So overall, as a customer, we see our end users are males, but people who are buying on the platform, I think both of I would say uh, everyone is buying from us. So definitely building a consumer brand in that direction.
Awesome. That's great. And we're also joined by Priyank, who heads branding at 1MG. So Priyank, this question is for you. When we hear the word customers, what according to 1MG would be the customers? Is it just the end customers, or there are more stakeholders that you consider in the CX journey?
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Vartika, and hi, all the panelists. Sorry, I a little bit got late. So, Vartika, when you say the customers for us, for Tata 1MG, which is a need-based product, right? We divide the customers basically into three cohorts. One is the young teenagers, you can say, not the teenagers, little more than that, around 20 to 30 years of age, who are ordering the medicines or who are booking the lab tests, not for themselves, but sometimes for the adults, for their parents, for their grandparents, like that.
Right.
And another set of the cohorts or the TG that we say, which is very important for us, is 30 to 40, 45 years of age, who are quite evolved, or who are quite thoughtful about their own health. Both male and female are booking their own medicines. They might be on a verge of certain diseases. They are taking certain precaution medicines so that they don't fall into BP, diabetes, and all those things. And then there is a segment which is like 45, 50 years of age, up to 60, 65 years of age, who are not very tech savvy, but somehow they are managing to order the medicines, from either from the chat or from the call center, because they need the medicines very regularly. So I think these are the three cohorts which are very important for us from the customer experience, and all the cohorts have their own nuances, have their own depths, have their own thought process, and we have to give the best experience customized to their needs and requirements.
And Priyank, also, I think in your customer ecosystem would also be, all the pathology labs, etc., which are your partners. They're also probably one of your segments of customers, right?
Definitely. So there are multiple wings. I was talking more from the B2C perspective, but if you look from the B2B perspective, then doctors, or the lab, the technicians, the pathologists, or the corporates are also our target segments. And we have B2B programs also for our corporates, where we take the help of the HR or the admin to get the packages customized for their employees. So there are two arms, B2C and B2B. Both are our target audience. I was telling about the B2C segment.
Right.
As you mentioned, the B2B segment is also very much important for us.
So just to summarize the first question, who is the C in the CX is actually not just the end customer, but the entire ecosystem. It could be your partners, it could be your employees, it could be your end customers, and anybody who's really making a dent in that entire experience journey. So thank you so much for that answer, everyone. The next thing that I want to come to is, as brand custodians, somewhere we would have had this experience of digging into, what is really good customer experience. And good customer experience comes by perhaps building great value. So to inspire other marketers and all the listeners today, Can you recall any experience in your own journey where you dug into what really is the value to accentuate during the CX journey, and how did you go about making a big deal out of that to your end customers? So, Nitish, would you want to take that?
Sure, sure. So I think like there are many occasions where kind of kind of rethink that what exactly is the business that I'm in, or what is exactly the value add that me or the my team or the company is bringing to the table. So often, I think what I feel is that the layer of abstraction should be slightly higher when you're thinking about that, because so I'll give you an example of that. Like what I mean by that is basically, for example, we don't consider ourselves to be in the business of moving goods, right? Although it might seem very apparent from the work we actually do, right? In that sense. But what we consider ourselves to be actually doing is we are in the business of actually moving the dreams ahead for the people, right? So we are actually in the business of moving dreams ahead rather than moving goods. Why we say that? Because the driver partners, like you said, are one of the key elements of our customer segments. uh, they are interested, they're joining Porter because they want to earn more, and because the technology sort of offers them a promise of earning better efficiency out of a better utilization of the vehicles they own. And if that's not happening, then the promise is not being met, right, in that sense. And similarly, customers are joining us because they think that if eventually they'll get better prices because the technology will drive efficiency. Again, for us to kind of stand true to that this thing. And either side, if you see, like we discussed earlier also, right, is that customers get impacted because of the work we do. And if we have that at the back of our mind, then I think dissecting what exactly to do when environment changes, for example, or things changes, that becomes very apparent. So an example of this would be that when actually pandemic struck, right, basically our revenues were down significantly because we are operating in a very different model, and obviously it happened for, I think, majority of the companies. The question we ask ourselves is, how do we stay relevant, right? And then we started digging deeper and saying, okay, in the changed environment, what are the kind of logistics needs people are going to have, how the things change for the business customers that we are working with, how it changes for personal end consumers that we are working with, and so on, and how it changes things for the driver partners. Like now, how do we make sure that they have some decent earnings to survive the pandemic and lockdowns of the world, right? So those things kind of inspired us to kind of take a lot of action eventually to kind of change the way we operate in many ways. Maybe started offering new categories, new business verticals started coming up, all in pandemic, just to say stay relevant to our all customer segment. And that's, in my opinion, is a great example of uh, dissecting the needs of the customer at a slightly higher abstraction and then kind of manifesting it back into a different solution.
Great, thanks, Nitish. So the key takeaway here is that efficiency is one of the values that you bring onto the table. And during the pandemic, you had to find new ways of staying relevant for both your internal and external stakeholders.
Absolutely,
Thank you
absolutely.
so much for that, Nitish. I'd like to ask Priyang about just the same question with respect to what is value for 1mg? Is it discounts? Because every time there's a salary day, they're like, hey, woman, buy Horlicks. And then there are like, hey, do a preemptive test. So there are multiple messages coming. I, as a user, feel that 1mg is a brand is trying to take care of a lot of things preventive to normal OTC. So just want to understand, what is the value, Priyank, you feel is your company driving, and how did you really discover that value?
Sure, sure. Vartika, that's a very good question. See, for Tata 1mg, the value that we are giving to our customers, if I just broadly put, one is the speed of the delivery. So what we are trying to do is that whatever you order, if you are living in a metros, obviously there are some operational challenges. But if you are living in a metros, we are trying to deliver it within hours. Currently, it's like 5 hours, but we are reducing it to 3, or eventually we will bring it to 2 hours. Second value addition, or second thing that we are heavily playing to enhance the customer experience, is the personalization, or you can say the relevant communication to a particular cohort. Just to give you an example, a use case. Suppose I am a person who are having a certain disease like diabetes or BP, and I am ordering the medicines very much frequently for that particular disease. then I can pitch you a relevant test for you, that why don't you take a diabetes package, which consists of suppose 5 to 6 tests, and this will be quite relevant for you, because this will help you to understand whether you are in control of the diabetes or not. And if you're not in control, then how you can control by getting into better doctor consultations. Then we can again pitch you for the doctor consultations, that you can take those consultations, and you can revisit your medications again and again. So I think whatever communication we are making, we are dividing those communications into cohorts of users, and then those cohorts of users are getting a personalized communication, which is very much relevant. And the third thing is the product side. So the ordering of medicines we have made is very simple. So as we are a regulated company, you need to have a prescription, but sometimes you don't understand the prescription because of the doctor's handwriting. Sometimes people don't have a prescription also. So there are multiple ways of ordering also. Whether you have a prescription, whether you understand the writing of a doctor or not, we are here to help you out in each and every case for ordering. And we want to make it the ordering system very simple for you, so that even a person who is not that much tech savvy can order those things. So I think these are the three things that we are adding value in the customer's life.
Got it. So you start with, let's say, delivery, and then look at, all right, what is this person getting the medicines delivered for, and then try and help them out through that journey, be it diabetes or be it a blood test.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great, and that's where the personalization engine kicks in. And I could vouch for this, because what my parents see in their 1mg notification versus me is completely different. So great job at that to you and your team. Coming to the brand, which probably is all about driving value through personalization, is Man Company. So Arpit, what are your views there, and how did you figure out what is the value you're driving to all the men and women customers on board?
Sure, Vartika. So basically, what do we do on the multiple fronts? We first of all, as Jack mentioned, the personalization that happens, the type of communication that we send to each cohort of the customers, that is very different. So we categorize the customers on the basis of their purchase behaviors. So if there are users who are only into one category, as we are into 7 categories overall, so we try to cohort, we try to segment the customers in that they are buying only from the single category of products, or they are buying from multiple. So they are homogeneous customers who are buying only from the same category. Then there are heterogeneous customers who are first buying from one category, then they come and explore other categories. So basically our strategy works in that particular way, that if a customer is only into buying one category, we try to promote the second best category to them, and see that how we can position that if they are only into one category. If people are buying from multiple categories, so and if some of the categories are untouched, we try to push those categories. And similarly, segmenting the users based on their different purchase behaviors with us. Like there are certain set of customers who are buying multiple times in a month. Their recency frequencies of buying are very high. So what happens in that case, whenever we have any limited edition launch or a new launch, so we know that all those products would be would sold just in a in just few hours. So
Arpit,
we
apart
keep
from
them
this,
as a brand loyalist.
right. I think one more value that you're bringing to the whole market is, men don't have to take bath with pink soaps anymore. So I think that's the base level. Like I don't see any other big brands really entering and taking this space. So yeah, thank you for you and your brand to really put men on the personal goods space, and then further personalizing them, and of course upselling, cross-selling more intelligently. So great.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah, go ahead.
we appeal in that way only, that bring out the gentleman in you, so and take care of your personal grooming. So that's our overall motto, just like for to reaching out all the men to take the self-care and giving the care to yourself that you deserve.
Absolutely. So great. So we've learned in this session how to find the value, what is the value, and also, one thing that we've all seen is how the market has changed over the last 2 years. Not trying to make it sound too sad. I think there are 3 brands, 4 brands here who have actually transformed things over the last 2 years. So just want to understand, from your experience over the last 2 years, What are the elements that you now consider pivotal for a good CX strategy? And how do you actually effectively use it to elevate the entire journey? So we could start with Priyank perhaps on this, and then move forward.
Vartika, for us, a good CX strategy has, again, I think, I already mentioned, has multiple, you can say, the pillars. And the first pillar that comes is the operations part. That how much we are able to deliver your medicines in the right amount of time. We should not delay your medicines, because medicine is something which is like needed. If the grocery can be delivered in like 15 minutes, why not the medicines can be delivered?
Right.
So those things are quite critical for a brand like us. Then next comes the again the communication part. How we acquire the communication at the right time and at the right moment. And whatever channels that we are using currently, whether it's a Facebook, social media, branding, or whatever, we always try to tap the customer at the right time at the right moment, so that that the genuinity or the need or requirement of that particular customer can be addressed at that point of time. The communication strategy is very important. We do a lot of analysis on the data and make the cohorts out of it, so that the communication strategy is quite sharp and personalized for that particular consumer. We do a couple of innovations also in the product journey also. The innovations are like multiple ways of ordering. If you have a prescription, if you don't have a prescription, there are multiple modes of payment. Like there is also a COD payment which is like available for you. Then we have certain affiliate partners, or the value chain partners, who we call it as a LGV. That is, these are the agents who can book on your behalf, basically for those customers who are not able to book by themselves because of the tech savviness. So I think
Right.
these are the few major important pillars for our customer strategy, or customer experience strategy, I would say, to get the best in class experience for the customers.
And Brian, what changed over the last 2 years? Like during COVID, a lot of people might be buying the normal medicines. There might be a big need for prescriptions. So how did you really, scale up on that front? And were there any interesting anecdotes there?
Yeah. So these last years are really crazy for us. The demand were really huge, and we were honestly not able to fulfill all the supplies, all the demands at the right amount of delivery time. But we are trying our best. The changes that we are doing is that we are opening more and more capabilities on the operational side. That is, opening more warehouses. We are opening more labs to cater to the demand of entire pan India, so that the experience of the customers can be enhanced. So then these are the couple of things on the operations side that we have taken up to enhance the customer experience.
Got it. Yeah, and I think a lot of us here would have actually benefited from that. I think what Nitish is talking and what you're talking is pretty much about the ecosystem from a delivery standpoint and also Man Company. It's all about connecting the last mile delivery from the brand promise. So definitely those do look like the major pillars. Nitish, yesterday we were talking about some ideas around what are the three V's in India. And what do you think are those in terms of the CX strategy that has changed over the last 2 years?
Right. So I think given the kind of diversity we have in the country in the form of languages, in the brand of so many cultures, like we say, right, unity in diversity is the core of our country. And from that perspective, and the second perspective is that we have a natural preference for, more, I would say, active interaction as a country. And in that sense, like, Bollywood cricket is loved everywhere in India. So in that sense, I think voice, video, and vernacular, right? These three become very key pillars when you're thinking about customer experience, especially in our country's context, I think, right? So a lot of people prefer voice interactions, prefer video interactions, for example, right? And you would have seen the boom of them in the pandemic again, right? And almost all companies basically have seen a boom in this space, right? And the vernacular is like paramount importance, I think. like most companies figured out that okay, the next set of internet users, if we want them to use our internet enabled or technology enabled solutions, then from a product market fit perspective, product has to change to match the market, and it can never be other way around. You can't make people learn English to kind of start using English applications, right? So from that perspective, I think vernacular, the usage of voice, like we discussed, like for 1mg ordering uh, on voice also or WhatsApp also is an important use case, because not everybody wants to use a graphical user interface. And and I think that's going to continuously see boom for the next few years, in my opinion, like be pandemic or otherwise. It's definitely like voice, video, and vernacular will remain themes of CX, improvement continuously for, I think, almost all companies that operate in our country.
Absolutely. We've seen a very similar trend at Yellow AI where, from, CX strategy being something on the table to be discussed and digital transformation to be discussed to really rapidly deploying it over the last 2 years. And of course, channels like voice, IVR, WhatsApp being closer to people, did come out as very fast ways of getting closer to the customers. So definitely love the point of three Vs. That's video, voice, and vernacular, three Vs of India. Thank you for that, Nitesh. Now, I will not ask this question to you, Arpit, but I have a different one. So we've all heard that customers now expect a very seamless, hyper-personalized, and customized experience each time that they engage with a brand. All of that seems very daunting, and some folks might go like, "Hey, why do you want so much customization?" But for a brand like yours, where this is pretty much like the need of, there are. What are the three strategies that you're adopting to fulfill this personalization, so to say?
Sure. So basically, Vartika, for us, personalization is in two different stages. First is the pre-purchase. We focus on like before a customer is buying from us, how is their experience over the website and when interacting with the brand online. And second is basically when he makes the purchase. After that, how the brands is in constant touch till the time of delivery or even after the delivery that happens, so that we can retain the customer. So talking about what we do on the pre-purchase side is the first few things are whenever see we just keep on analyzing the type of questions or the customer queries that we receive through all the modes of communication. Maybe it is through chat, phone numbers, or WhatsApp. Through a brand to us, just like people mostly ask about how to use certain set of products. So we try to cater. We have now built a strategy that we'll show every product that has certain usage instructions then and there, so that customer is very clear that how they will utilize the product before buying the product. So that is very important. So we have implemented that in a textual and visual format, and even even in the video format we are trying to implement that with each and every type of product, so that customer can see people actually using that product. So now if you'll see on our website, most of the products are accompanied with set of videos, set of instructions written in every type of format, wherever consumer wants to, however he wants to consume, as we discussed, three V's of customer experience. So even they can just watch a real type of a video on the website, so that how a particular person is using that product. So that has helped us in decreasing a lot of customer queries where they have to interact with the brand, and that causes a delay in their overall purchase journey. So we have significantly reduced that by implementing this. Secondly, this is about the pre-purchase. I would say one of the major thing that we have did. After that, in the post-purchase, I would say as we are competing with the Amazons, matlab, we also do sell on marketplaces. But in terms of when customer has to make a decision that whether they should buy from the brand website or from the marketplaces, Amazons and Flipkarts of the world, where they should go, because as we know the delivery times of these uh, marketplaces is significant, like lightning fast. You can order on Amazon today, tonight, and tomorrow morning it will be on your doorstep. So if we have to compete with that speed and still be relevant to the customer, we try to maintain a very healthy communication, a very healthy flow with the customer, that he is hooked with the brand and is not feeling like that I should the next time I should buy from Amazon. So we play around a lot of copies, that how we are interacting with the brand, lot of different stages, like keep customer informed about the overall process that's happening in the background. And maybe before that, and we have also started implementing that if certain product is coming to you, of what you need to how you need to use that product beforehand. So again, that
Dividing
giving that,
the
educating the customer before the custom product reaches to them.
Right, right. Makes sense. So there's a pre and post bifurcation for the personalization as well. Great, thank you for that, Arpit. My next question, since I'm from the brand Yellow AI and we're all about automating customer experiences and employee experiences, just wanted to pick this panel's brains on, what really are your thoughts as automation as a part of your CX strategy? It's an open question, and happy to hear views from everyone.
Right. So I think when we look at automation as part of the overall CX strategy, I think the most important layer to consider is we talk about this often, is that from an experience perspective, the first is basically the utility part of it. The second is the usability, how easy it is to use your product or service. The third layer comes from a desirability, which is where now people find your product useful, then they have found easy to use, then now they desire it more and more because they often are not getting enough of it, right? For example, right? And the last layer comes from a brand experience perspective, which is where the person or the user or the customer feels that the brand is them in identity terms, right? And that's your last layer of experience. If you have that kind of experience, then there's no question that customers are going away from your brand at all, right? At some point, it's an extension of their identity, right? If your brand becomes extension of the identity in that sense. So when you are thinking about that, it's very important to consider that in our automation journey as well. So if you are a brand which wants to be a funny brand, then your IVR has to be funny. It can't be, oh, press one for English and slow
Absolutely.
tones like that, right? And if your brand wants to be a professional, then your IVR has to be professional, right? So I think that's a journey that everybody should consider while building bots, voice bots, chat bots, whatever it is, right? The automation should take care of the brand element or brand persona in the interactions, because so we say that there are two types of interactions, right? One is human computer, and then another is our human system, whatever you want to call it, right? So a customer interacts with the system, and the other is human to human, right? So human to human, the brand persona should be replicated in human to computer interaction as well, and that's a very, very important lens I think we all need to use when we think about automation in CX.
Great. Thank you so much, Nitesh. What are your views on that, Priyank, as Tata 1MG? What are your automation strategies, and what could we as users look forward to in the coming year?
So, Vartika, we are using automation on couple of fronts in Tata 1MG. One is the engagement part. We are using the automation. So what we do generally, we make an entire journey or you can say the integrated series of mediums, modes of messages that you are getting, and it is relevant to the customer, and it is in an automated fashion. So one is like one mode of communication is complementing to another mode of the communication. Also, from the marketing perspective, we are using automation in terms of whenever a lead is being captured on any of the medium like Facebook or any other medium, it is on the real time being transferred onto the CRM, and from there the call center team or the operations team can directly call to the customer to get the bookings done or the lab tests done, because this increases the customer experience a lot without any delay, because it's happening in the real time. Also I think as I think Nitesh mentioned, on the call center or on the chat part also, we are using a couple of bot activities, which we are using couple of bot algorithms also, which is increasing the customer experience without having need to have a large human interaction. Most of the queries are being solved at the bot level only, and if needed, then only the human interaction comes in play, because we are a little bit on a medicine part, which needs there are a lot of nuances in that. Human interaction might be a little higher for us, but we are trying to get onto that particular mode where a lot of things can be solved in an automated mode. So I think these are the couple of automation strategies that we are currently using.
Right. I think as a healthcare company, like there might be some, appointments or some medicines that I might want to buy without really the judgment of a human. And that is where we've also seen a lot of healthcare companies in the US and Europe, really leverage more of chatbots for appointment booking, medicine reminders, and so on.
Right.
So great. That looks like a very solid plan for the next year. And we started to get a few questions from all the audience as well. But before we get to the questions, one last, again, open question. We talk a lot about CX, how to elevate CX, but in your organizations, do you have a very specific way of measuring CX? Is it on to do with the CSAT, or what are the other metrics? Happy to discuss those here.
Yeah, I think like one of the most popular metric that everyone kind of stacks, and we also use at Porter, is basically NPS, right? Net Promoter Score. So you try to kind of, survey the audience, or be it users or, post transaction, sometimes pre-transaction. So different touch points fundamentally, and maybe even on at customer support side and things like that. And you try to kind of see kind of the same old thing, right? Promoter, detractor, and neutral kind of, and then come out with the score which ranges from -100 to +100, right? So that traditional, I think NPS is definitely a good metric that many companies and including Porter has found it to be useful to kind of keep measuring and keep improving upon. It does give a lot of insights into where we can improve as a brand and in terms of experience. But what I also feel is that eventually there's a second type of metric which we really need to kind of improve upon, and which is more, I would say, is like more like a shift from, let's say, customer loyalty to customer preference is happening in the world, right? So no longer people talking about customer loyalty. What they want is customer preference, right? Given a choice, what would you choose? And many markets are going towards duopoly in that sense. And in a duopoly kind of thing, instead of loyalty, what you're chasing is probably preference, right? So, and that's something very, very important to measure, I think. There are various metrics that can be used. I would not like to go into detail of those, but I think it's very important to track that preference meter, I call it.
That's great. I think, yeah, loyalty is just asking for too much. And
Absolutely.
what is it that you're putting on the table for them to be preferring you?
The
So it's
preference
really
itself
about
is kind of indication of the loyalty in many ways, right? And it's a more fundamental metric to track.
absolutely. So you would probably track that by repeat purchase and LTV, right?
Yeah,
Great.
correct. Multiple metrics to track that. Yeah.
Awesome. Uh, Everybody attending, Priyank had to leave, and we still have Arpit and Nitesh here. So we will take your questions. But before that, Arpit, what are the CX metrics that are measured at the Man Company?
Sure, matlab, Nitish rightly mentioned about the NPS score. So basically, we try to understand the NPS score for every product that we are selling. So we try to always in our reviews, we see that what are the products where NPS is falling for the customers who have bought in the last 1 week, and how the NPS is moving up for the product that have been sold the most in last 1 week. So that is the primary indicator. But also we'd like also basically a better customer experience can also be evaluated, and how do we do it is the month over month repeat rate of the customer. So we just keep on analyzing the cohorts
Right.
of the customer that were acquired in a particular month, and how their repeat is like happening in the coming time and in the months after that. So basically I see that as a, and then you can just list down the initiatives that you took on in those months, and and you would have the entire result in front of you, that what were the initiatives that helped the customers at that time to just come up to you and just be hooked and retained with your brand. So what do we do is like keep on measuring these things like what is the product-wise repeat purchase of the customers, that how frequently they are buying the same product, and overall as a business, what is the month-over-month repeat that's happening. So I would say these are the primary things that we presently measure for the customer
Yeah,
experience.
Arpit, what happens to products that get like really low scores? Like, does that information go back to the product or the manufacturing team, and are those incorporated in your selling cycle as well?
Exactly. So yeah, this is the overall objective that, for example, if we are launching a new product and from the initial days we start to get low NPS of that product, so that the feedback is directly passed on to the NPD team, which again works on their formulations, or if that required, they try to figure out what exactly the information is missing. Are we not giving the right information of usage to the products,
Right.
or clear set of
Expectations and
instruction is not given to the user, or is it not going in the way of transit is not perfect. So whatever the changes are required in terms of packaging, in terms of formulation of products, that is done based on the feedback of the customers only.
That's great. Thanks for that, Arpit. So now we'll just wrap two questions in the next 4 minutes. The first question is, while brands are innovating in targeted CX solutions and marketing, many companies continue to push content to users. The users sometimes get too much information and starts to ignore all brands. How does one find the correct touch points and frequency in today's world to make their message heard? Great. So, Nitesh, you're
Yeah.
nodding quite a lot. So would you want to answer this?
Yeah, I think what I can say is that the important consideration is not only like the thing is that one type of message and one type of channel becomes boring. So to sort of make it fun and interactive, I think omni-channel strategy in terms of building this communications is a much better thing to consider. For example, I think you had only mentioned that you had seen porter trucks all around, basically, right? So the important thing is that the message or the kind of communication that you want to send out, the frequency has to be contextual, and the second thing is about the presence part of it, right? So you want to be present when the user probably is looking for you, so they would appreciate that kind of message. But if you're just so I think understanding the frequency of users and trying to match to that in some sense I think is the real key. And second part of it is we don't make it boring, so try to make it different every time. And then also the channel part of it, try to engage the users on different channels also,
Right.
not just one channel.
Thanks for that, Nitesh. And one thing that we've also seen at Yellow AI is that not every time do you need to go out with notifications and push messaging, but rather, make them understand that, hey, there is this mechanism of finding information from the brand. It could be a,
Correct.
chatbot on WhatsApp, or it could be on their web, or it could be a voice bot, or it could be on Alexa. Alexa started. It could be on Alexa, and those are ways in which users could actually get the right information on demand. Because no matter how much we think as marketers, we know what the customers want, but there are different stages of the buying journey or the engagement journey they're at. So I would say
Yeah.
one, definitely deploy a more omni-channel strategy, understand which user likes to engage on which topics, on which channels, and the other one is try and make them say that, hey, you can go and find information on demand. It's not a push mechanism anymore and a pull mechanism. So thanks for that. And the second question is, can you share some insights on finding a balance between investing in human touch points versus deploying AI, and potentially losing customers if AI can't answer the questions for, let's say, customer support offerings? Hey, I would like to take that up. So as a company, we believe in bringing in the best of human intelligence and AI intelligence. And what we've seen is that there are certain questions which can be answered with about 80-85% confidence by bots. So, for example, things like where is my Swiggy order? Where is my refund? How many days will it take for the order to be delivered? These are things which can be straightforward on a multi-turn, be found out from another system, integrated better with the chatbot, and boom, in 1 second, your customer can have a response. And then there are some sensitive issues that, hey, I think, my order was half eaten by the delivery boy. Now, you, of course, need a human agent to really dive into that, ask for pictures, and really solve the issue for the customer and also for the delivery partner. And that is where, you would see that if the bot does not have 85% or 90%, whatever high level you want to set, if the bot is not able to understand that, it automatically falls back to a human agent. But what is really happening with AI is that it's actually acting as like a first line of defense. If at all it cannot answer, then give it to the human agent, so that even the human is not really spending too much time figuring or routing, as in the traditional senses. CRMs were only routing queries. It's doing a little better than that. But of course, even when we look at very, very developed markets like the US, we see that there is, of course, a big need for banking on humans for really a conversation. It could be especially for industries like healthcare, banking. No matter what, you want to have that experience with a human agent. So I hope I was able to answer that for the audience. And in no way in the next 10 years I see this going complete AI or complete human. It has to be hybrid, and varying on the company's type of customers. It could rely more on AI or more on human.
Yeah, makes sense.
Great. Perfect. So pretty much on time here, Ayushi. And
Yes,
really
definitely.
enjoyed this session. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nitesh. Thanks, Arpit and Supriyang.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thanks, Vartika. Thanks, Nitesh.
Thank you everyone for such an engaging discussion today. A special thanks to all our panelists and the moderator for being here with us and making this possible. Another thank you goes to all our attendees who are here with us today. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Bye.